give no information anyway.
We're all prepared for it.
But you know, when they get the debit card. So,
All right, everybody, and 6
all right.
If you can take your places, please. All right, you guys, take your seats, please. Where did you put? I don't know. Are you losing your mind, like me? Okay, if all of you would rise up for our blessing. We're going to have Perry do it this evening for us.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for your multitude of blessings, including the blessing of the freedom to meet and talk with our possible and hoped for representatives. Bless their efforts with victory, as they will do nothing but glorify your name. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and how about Brad leading us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Okay, everybody. So you notice we are extending our stage. And likely the reason is we have really great Christmas programs right around Christmas, just before. And so you're going to want to be here for a Christmas program. All right. So anyhow, welcome everybody to our Pace and Tea Party meeting. And I'd like to start introducing some of our local celebrities and elected officials and stuff. So over here coming up, we're going to have Woody Cline. He is our county supervisor, District 3, so he's going to be one of our speakers. And we have, let's see, Brenda Barton, a candidate for AC House of Representatives, Open 6. And we have Jim Ferris, who is Payson Town Councilor. Jake? Say what?
I just want to make an announcement before the meeting's over.
Well,
Can I do it right now?
Break us into,
Yeah, there you go.
and also, I was going to already announce that, but you can go ahead.
This is the Northern Gila County Community Drug Task Force. We're presenting Chronic State at the Sawmill Theater on October 3rd. Starts at 9 o'clock. And this here is a documentary kind of film that talks about Colorado and what happened in Colorado after they voted for recreational marijuana. And it's really an eye-opener. And, you know, I'll have some of these flyers. If you want one or several that you can take to your church or other organizations to get the word out, we'd like to see a lot of people show up to this here. And we want to defeat this Proposition 207, which is the one, and we got to vote no on it. And the way that's written, it's very detrimental, and there's no way to reverse it. You know, the representatives of Arizona won't have a chance to change anything of it. So we need to defeat this here. We're going to have the movie. It's free. There's free popcorn, and then afterwards we're going to have a wave out in the street about defeating Prop 207. So please join us if you would.
And the date on that is?
October 3rd.
Saturday, October 3rd. Okay?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning, because you know what happens at 10 o'clock in the morning? The free patriotic movie. And they are doing 6 weeks of patriotic movies. And so, also, Chronic State was shown here, probably not last year, but the year before, after people started getting very aware of what was going on in Colorado, and it's a whole lot of people with their faces blurred because they could lose their jobs if they spoke up. They are not publicly able to speak out. on all of the problems that this has caused in Colorado, not only for all of the different agencies, and they thought that they were going to have extra money in their coffers, and instead it's costing way more because of all of the problems. And all the drug cartels that are buying up homes that they're buying up homes and growing in the backyards because it's illegal to grow marijuana for sale in your own yard up there. So not a good thing. They're buying up gated communities, actually. So anyhow, you want to watch Chronic State if you did not see it, and even if you saw it, you want to see it again on October the 3rd at 9 a.m. Also, we have Darlene Yonker, who is here as staffer for Walt Blackman this evening. She's going to say a few words for Walt, because Walt got stuck down in Phoenix and is not going to be here, so it's a sad thing, because we wanted to hear him. Look at all you people that came. So, anyhow, also, as long as we're talking about Jim, Jim has handed out copies of a document that he wanted to publish in the Roundup, but the Roundup refused to do it. So if you want to hear some more scuttlebutt or read about more scuttlebutt, you can go ahead and do that. If anybody didn't get it, George had them. Are you out?
I'm out.
Okay, well, so, you know, you can either share, or when you read it, pass it on to somebody else, okay? Alrighty, so next on the agenda, I would just like to get started, because I don't see any other, hi Charlie, people back here that are, oh, I'm on the Sanitary District Board, by the way, and remember last week I announced if any of you are interested in running for an appointed seat on the Sanitary District Board, see me afterwards, okay, because they have an opening. All right, without further ado, I would like to introduce Woody Cline. Woody was elected 8 years ago. 4 years ago. Well, you know what? Last year I said the sheriff was elected 4 years ago and he was elected 8 years ago, and I thought, oh shit. So I blew it once again. What's new? It's just Shirley here, you know. And he is representing Supervisor District 3 for Healy County. And so actually, most of Payson is in Tommy Martin's district, but Brenda and I, and Gary and Sandy and George and Harry and Don all live in the southeast part of town. Woody's our supervisor. So come on up, Woody, and share with us what's going on with the county.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to see everybody tonight. It's been a while since we've been able to get together face to face, so I really like this. This is good. Even John and Melanie's here. That's good.
I know, it's great.
So 10 minutes is going to go by quick, and there's a lot to talk about that we won't get covered in 10 minutes.
Yeah, she can go a little
You tell me when to quit. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. Because
Okay. I can do that too. Okay. Okay, we can do that. We can do that. So what I want to bring up and I want to start with tonight is our meeting we had today, this morning at 10 o'clock there in the courthouse. It was on the public personnel PSPRS retirement system. That's the deputies, the dispatchers, the detention officers, and those folks. And it's through the state. All that money is handled through the state. Well, back in about 2008, the economy kind of turned upside down, and a big chunk of that money was lost. But what it did, it came back to the shoulders of all of you, to the counties and to the cities. And so this morning was our 4th meeting that we've had on this. And what this equates to is a little over $15 million that the county owes. And so what we're doing is we're looking at bonding that out and going ahead and paying it. One of the kickers on this, the way it's set up right now, is the money, that $15 million, is we're paying 7.3 interest on it. really high dollar interest and have been for a while. So we can go back and refinance that, bond it out, pay that unfunded liability off. Hopefully it'll stay that way, it'll be done, and level those payments out and work it to where, with any luck and everything goes like we want it to go, you know, we'll be fine. We'll be able to pay it. It's going to take about 15 to 17 years to pay this off, but we will get ahead of it. The one thing that I learned today that I did not know is the retirement system is in tiers. There's 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3. What we're dealing with now is 1 and 2. That means that's the folks that are in that system that have been in it for quite a while, that's paid into it a while back. So there's no more people going into that tier 1 and tier 2. Everybody new now is in tier 3, and we don't have to deal with that. That's a whole different system, as long as the state handles it properly. That's why we need people like Walt Blackman and Brenda Barton in there, people we can talk to and work with. So that's real important, we can get them back in office. So today was our 4th meeting on this. We're working with an outfit called Stifle. The representative, his name is Mark Reeder. We worked with him before. Before the virus hit, we had went in there and bonded these capital projects. I think most of you know what's going on here in Payson. We're putting money into the jail. The jail's going to get about $1 million in it to do some work on it and bring it up to what it should be. Also, we ended up with that new detention center down there on Cedar. We have that. They're going to take right here on the corner where the health department is now. Those folks are going to move into the Napa building. The Napa building is just about finished, and they should be in it in October. And then we're going to take that one building down that they've been in and build another one there. And then the Board of Supervisors office over here where community development's at, there'll be some other folks moving into that. And so the board, us 3, will be in that along with the judges. The big push on this was so the judges could have room for court space and jury selection and things like that. We had spent 2 years in Payson going around looking to try and lease one of these big buildings that we could go in and modify and change to fit those needs. But the lease on those buildings is way high, really high. So we looked at those figures and decided if we're going to need space, we're better off to try and work it ourselves and do it. So we actually looked first at, we have 27 acres that's on 260 out here, right there in front of the college, right along the highway, all the way down towards Payson Concrete. So we looked at going in there and leveling that off and moving the county complex into that, and then getting rid of all the other properties that we have here. Fact of the matter was, the infrastructure just to get that started was a lot of money, a really lot of money. And so we went back, looked at the buildings we have, we acquired the one on Cedar, and with a little bit of work we could make all that fit just fine. And the Napa building, we already owned it. That was purchased prior to me taking office. And then we'll get everybody situated there. Today, I've been talking to the county manager, and I have been for the last year. If we're not going to use that property out there on 260, we need to get rid of it. We don't need it. We need to sell it. Property prices are up right now. It's really, really good property. And my opinion is we need to sell it and bank that money, so if we need it to help pay for something like on this retirement system or those capital projects, we can do that without tapping into our general fund. So I hope it works that way. I hope we can take, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to have it appraised and see what the value is on it and then go from there. Sure.
Do you not also own some property when you go west on Arrow and south toward the event center? Isn't there some county owns some?
No, there's no county property there, Shirley. No.
Maybe they were just looking at maybe buying out.
You know what, we were at one time, that was about a little over a year ago, right there around Sawmill Theater. We were looking at purchasing some land there and putting everything right there, but that didn't work out either. So that's what we have on these projects. Now in Globe, these capital projects I'm telling you about, it's a $10 million project. There's $5 million getting spent here in Payson on these buildings that I just told you about. There's $4.1 9 getting spent in Globe on the jail. That jail down there will get some work. And then out there at the fairgrounds, we just broke ground today, I was told, on a new animal shelter that's going to go in down there. And so the story behind that is the animal shelter we have today is up there by the cemetery we were working on. But the cemetery owns the ground and another lady owns the building. We're just kind of there. So the cemetery needed the ground and the lady wanted her building back. I don't know what the deal is, but we had to go. So we started looking at that and came up with this deal out there at the fairgrounds. And so we're hoping it'll be done sometime next year on that. And then, like I said, the jail will have some more work. There's about $1 million in each jail. It's going into each of the jails, so. Any questions on that so far? No? Yeah.
Yes. You know, in the jails, it's people that have committed a crime. Why are you making it nice for them?
Well, it isn't going to be nice. There's something about those bars that is not nice. So here's the deal with the jails, is that they both need work. The one in Payson needs a lot of work. But what we're scared to death of is one of these inmates having something happen to them and suing the county. And us as taxpayers will be paying for that for a long time. And so that's the kind of fixing I'm talking about, is to try and alleviate those issues.
Are they going to blame it on somebody shanking them and then want to sue the community?
You never know these days. You never know. Hang on, Jim.
Lee, where on Cedar is this detention center?
It's just right after you turn off of 87 right there. There used to be, I think, a doctor's office or something. Right there is a kind of a brown building. Just right after you turn off on the right.
Next door to St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. It's a really nice setup. Now, they've been closed because of the virus, but it's not only a detention center, it's a youth center too. Teen center is what they call it. So I'd urge all you guys, if you get a chance, swing by there and take a look. They did an outstanding job of it. The building, we got it for a good price, and then our facilities people, with a few subcontractors and the detention people, they're the ones that remodeled all of it inside. And we had some prison help too do it. And so it came out really nice. And so I believe if they're not open right now, they're getting ready to open back up. So if you get a chance, go by. Jim, did you have something?
Well, I was just saying about the TSVRS. You could mention that the county had no fault in
No.
you're falling behind with that at all. So
No.
this is a state requirement that we had to turn our money over to them, to that committee or whatever that managed those funds.
Right.
And they dropped the ball. They blew it big time. And the town of Payson, we got $16 million that we need to come up with also. And it's just, I think it's terrible. And I wish that with all these different government agencies, it'd be nice statewide if we could move from a defined benefit program to a defined contribution program.
Absolutely. So,
Now, that's tier 3.
yeah, that's a tier 3 that they're working towards. But Jim's absolutely right. This all started back in '08. And so for us, the board you see now, Tommy was around, right around there, right after. But for the most part, we inherited this. The state's what created it, but it came back to our shoulders. I don't personally think that's quite fair, but for some reason, me and the governor don't agree on that. Brenda?
Actually, wasn't it the DSPRS board that lost the money and,
They're the ones that are
they're the culprits, actually.
yeah.
They were invested in a lot of peculiar, strange,
Right, and so the board has changed, and I'll get to that in just a minute, yeah?
Yeah, I have a question. How was that money, I'm assuming the money was invested, right?
Yeah.
The employees paid into their retirement fund, and from there it was diversified.
Yeah.
Once the market came back, which it did after 2008, what happened? Did they sell their position and lock in loss?
I can't totally answer that, but I know that there's still a 35% unfunded liability in there, and that's the 15 million we're talking about.
That's terrible.
And so, yeah, it is. But what it was Brenda's right. It's the board, and the board is appointed by the state. And then they invest that money to try and get that return, that rate of return. And so it didn't work back then. That's when the economy took a dive and it went bad. Now since then, hang on Jim, since then there's a gentleman that's on that board right now. His name is Mike Townsend. And I don't know him. I've talked to him on the phone. He was on our phone call, or on the phone this morning during our meeting. But I haven't talked to him in person. But everybody that I talk to says that this is the guy to keep it straight. My biggest fear is we're talking 15 to 17 years to pay this off. Mike probably won't be around that long. And so my biggest problem has been, and I've asked him, I've asked everybody that can ask, what keeps us from this happening again? There's no assurances.
Is this the only county that occurred in?
No, no, it's statewide. Now I will tell you that we are the first county doing this. The city of Flagstaff is ahead of us. They just bonded out a ton of money for theirs. We're working on ours from the county standpoint, and Pinal County is right behind us, and some other ones are lined up to do it there.
We need to support those people. They put that money into that system, and they absolutely need that retirement.
We don't have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah, we do not have a choice. Brenda?
Well, I just wanted to add that when I was still in the legislature, I talked to the Arizona State Treasurer about the PSPRS and the problem and the funding. And part of the problem with the board was that they did not have the expertise to make the investments, so they paid somebody else. And what they paid to them were millions of dollars fees to make these very crazy, worthless investments, and they didn't know the difference. So when I was talking to the state treasurer, the state treasurer's office can in fact manage and invest this money as they would the state general fund. And the state general fund, of course, and their investments are very sound, and they have certain requirements on investing, and they can only invest in certain types of areas. So that's something we need to look at again. We need to revisit that.
So when you get reelected, the way we can work on this?
Yes,
You and
sir.
Walt both?
Yes,
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Anything we can do to make this a solid deal,
Exactly.
I'm in favor of it, because that's the one thing that I don't want to do, is go in there and bond this kind of money and turn around in 10 years and have it happen again. You know, but right now, the people that I'm talking to, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees on that, so. Any more?
Bond interest though is less.
Yes, so,
7 point.
yes, right now it's 7.3, and today we were looking at 3.12 with the idea we're going to drop under 3. So, and so what the projected savings of that is just a little over $9 million in about 15, 16 years. That's a chunk of money. And so, but they're working on it. They're still working on that now. Mark Reeder and Stifel, they're going to go back, renegotiate interest rates. Interest rates are what we have to stay on top of and knock those down as low as we can get them so we can afford that money. I think Flagstaff's interest rate came in at like 2.69, I believe it was. So that's pretty cheap money. Brenda?
That's because they mortgage all their buildings as collateral.
Well, right now, we're sitting in as good a shape as they are, especially with our credit rating. See, here just a year ago, we finally got our AAA credit rating back. And so that helped a lot. And it's been just a juggling game through it all, but we're sitting in pretty good shape to try and get that low percentage rate, which will save us a lot of money. So, anything else? Anything more on that? I would suggest that you guys get a chance, and I didn't tell you this, I apologize, but our meetings there in the courthouse are on YouTube. So please go to YouTube if you can and pull those meetings up when we're having them, and you can sit there live and watch us. You can send in comments on YouTube, and do the whole 9 yards. And my opinion is even after this virus is done, we'll keep that YouTube channel up and keep running it that way. It's been really nice. Quite a few people have been on it, so. Okay, so we've been talking about the Second Amendment, the resolution for the Second Amendment. This started a while back. Some other counties went in there and drafted resolutions on that. We looked at it. I had a lot of comments, all of them from Payson. Imagine that. But there's one thing I bet you don't imagine. I had quite a few negative comments from Payson. That surprised me, you know. But it wasn't as many as the positives, so we're good. It wouldn't matter anyway. We're good anyway. So the thing of it is, and I've read the other resolutions from the other counties. I've looked at it. But what gets me, and we watch it every day on the news, we watch these people tearing up cities and burning things down and doing stupid things and hurting people. And we see the city leaders letting that happen, or the governors letting that happen. Those people took the same oath I did. And that was to defend our Constitution. And I just can't for the life of me figure out what they're thinking right now. By allowing, yeah.
Some of them don't believe in the Constitution.
Apparently, you know. So I'm pretty simple-minded. So my thought is, if that's the case, then you've already broke your oath. You need to be out, right? I mean, I just don't see any other way around it. But we have those people. They're out there, and they're doing some really crazy things. So I had a lot of pressure to go in there and draft a resolution on the Second Amendment. And I put it up in front of us as a board in a work session. And we talked about it. I think me and Tia might have been the only two there that day. But anyway, we discussed it. I'm going to tell you straight up, my idea of just having the Second Amendment, or having a resolution to defend and protect that Second Amendment, doesn't fit well with me. Because what about the rest of the Constitution? What about everything else that's there? So to me, it's like things. So to me, it was like, okay, we dropped a resolution, we pull a resolution for the Second Amendment, but we just left the rest of the Constitution hanging. No, I don't like that. I don't really feel that, personally, that you should need to do this. We've already done that. We've already swore that oath when we were brought into office. But we're going to go back and we're going to be looking at pulling a resolution that will cover the whole Constitution as a board. And I think what the time frame we're looking at is about that first week in October. That's when I've been pushing them to bring it up in front of us on the board. Darlene?
So I was under the impression that the Second Amendment sanctuary counties and cities was designed in large part because of the red flag laws, because those laws that are people are trying to pass, and that kind of a resolution then would at least put everybody on notice that this particular town or this particular county is not going to sit still for red flag laws or those types of laws. I thought that was what the whole purpose of that was.
That was part of it, for sure. But that still goes back to the same thing in my simple way of thinking. We're here to protect the Constitution. That's what we're supposed to govern on, is the Constitution. And so, but every day we see that broken. We see these idiots all over the United States doing these things that just doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense why they're still in office. How do they do it? You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to be looking at covering the whole Constitution. It's going to be wrote different. The idea behind it, I think you'll like when you hear it, when it comes up, and we'll be the first county to do it. Yeah.
Will there be penalties for violators?
Yeah, hell yeah, I'll go to jail. But you know, I think if
In
so
the resolution?
on the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, are you going
So-
to delineate penalties for violators within the county that violate?
So here's the deal. Our sheriff's office, our sheriff himself and his department is 100% behind us. Our county attorney is helping me draft this. He's with us. So what that tells me is if there's something that comes down, oh yeah, so if something comes down from the state, whatever it is, yeah, we're not going to break the Constitution. Now if it's, let's say you do it as an individual, or however that may fall into place, yeah, I would hope to see you go to jail. You know, that's us. That's us as a county. I think, you know, from what I can see so far, all of us, all of your elected leaders in the county right now have that same feeling. You know, but how it is around us, it's not necessarily the same. Because I've read those resolutions from the other different counties. Some of them are pretty weak. Some of them are just stating the obvious. Some of them go way far beyond, you know, to where it would be hard to even regulate it or make sure you know, it's there. So ours is going to be different. It's going to be different than what you've seen before. But the fact of the matter is, it still kind of irks me that we're doing this because of the fact we've already done it. But it's just the way it is. And so what you guys will see, hopefully it's the first week in October, is that this comes out and you'll like the way it's going to be wrote. And then we'll go from there. Any more questions on that, Darlene?
Just a comment.
I think one of the important reasons why that should be done is because without the Second Amendment, everything else in the Constitution is at risk. And so I think that that is one reason why I personally am in favor of reinforcing that. However, we have to make certain that that particular right that is in the Constitution, along with all the others, will not be infringed upon.
And you're right. You know, we lose our guns, we lose it all. That's just the bottom line. And so, you know, I've been asked that a lot. You know, would I give up my guns? No, I won't give up my guns. That's just all there is to it. And I'm pretty sure the majority of Gila County isn't going to either. And so, but I'm telling you guys, the fact of the matter is, it can't just be us as a board or me as a chairman or whatever. We need people like Brenda and Walt Blackman in there, in the state, that we can go to, and we have those connections in the state that we can call up and they can keep pressure on them, keep us up to what's going on. Because there's times we'll miss something. It'll happen. Something will be going on in the state that we don't catch. Yes, sir.
In the end, the only real defense that we have are the voters.
Yes.
Because if the voters say, you're not going to take my guns away, and I'll vote you out of office if you try.
Right.
That's the way it'll work. You can write resolutions all day long, but if the voters aren't behind you, you've got nothing.
See, and that's what surprises me when I look at these other states. And I look at what's going on, and I don't see the people really getting that loud or getting that strong behind it. I know they should be. I know the support should be out there for it, especially for the guns. But I don't see them doing it. And a lot of times I think, well, maybe we have our heads down too much and we're just busy making a living and whatnot. Don?
The reason you're not seeing it is...
Hang on, George. Go ahead, Don.
The reason you're not seeing it is because the media is blocking it.
Well, that's true. That is true. But still, you think we'd be hearing enough about it if they all were going to get together. George?
I think that this gentleman here is right on as far as our vote.
Mm-hmm.
But not only our vote being important, but the whole system, because they're trying to find ways to break down this voting system, you know, with our mail-in ballots and all these things that's going on around here.
Right.
We've got to protect that system, or our whole country is going to be toast. You know?
Yeah, and we all know that in here, I'm sure. This year it is real important, you know, that we keep Trump in there and everything. Jim?
Yeah, with the voting, our voting system is pretty sacred. And in Payson, we've had a lot of violations of the election laws. And feedback that I got from our county attorney about investigating and following through enforcing these here was not very encouraging. And you know, if they don't have the resources, they're saying they don't have the resources to enforce the law. Why do we have the law in the book in the first place? I mean, I'm really irritated about just this lack of, well, you know, we don't have, you know, if you can't enforce the law, you know, I'm sorry, that's not my problem. If I have a complaint, and it's a good legitimate complaint, it needs to be followed through and prosecuted if necessary.
Sure, and so you're getting, yeah, you're getting that out of our county attorney's office?
I'll talk to you later.
Jim. Hi. Question. Is the county attorney elected or appointed?
He's elected.
Elected, but there's nobody running against him this time, and I think he may feel that this is his last stint, so he may not feel accountable.
That has my curiosity up, Jim, because from what I've talked to Brad and been around him so far, that doesn't fit. So
Same here.
you know, so I'll visit with him. One thing you guys understand, it doesn't matter if it's Brad or Sadie or Deborah Savage or who it is as elected official, as board of supervisors, we do not have any control over them. That isn't the way it works. We have control over their money, but we don't have any control over them. And so, but that really surprises me about Brad. I'll visit with him a little bit about that, because I've been working with Sadie here for the last week or so on drop boxes and stuff like that, and she's doing a lot of work trying to get that together and placed in different places. But I'll visit with Brad. Don?
Woody, I wanted to explain to you something about what's going on with those other cities. It's hard to understand why they're not enforcing the laws there. It turns out George Soros has funded most of those prosecutors, and those prosecutors are not prosecuting because he wants, the whole purpose of this whole thing that's going on is not that the Democrats want to win the election. The actual objective is they want to end elections. They want this to be the last one, and they don't want Trump to get in office, and when he doesn't, they're going to take over. That's what they think anyway. And the problem is that those prosecutors in those other cities are under the gun from George Soros and the money bags to not prosecute those people because the objective is to tear the system down.
And you're right, and I know the backing behind it, but I don't understand the people. You know? The thing of it is still just like he said, it's voters. It's voters. I mean, how many of us here in this room could be bought off like that or not voice our opinion? I don't think one of you could not voice your opinion if things like that are happening. Right? I mean, I can't sit there quiet. And so, but that's in another state and another problems that I have absolutely no control over. So anyway, so that's it.
Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you to Woody. Just leave it there, yeah. Well, I'll grab it. So anyhow, just one thing I was reminded about that I don't have in my notes is yesterday, actually, I sent out to everybody on the Payson Tea Party mail list a thing that Jose Borrajero sent out about what would happen if there's 2 seats turned in the Arizona Senate and a couple of seats turned in the Arizona House, or whatever it takes to turn that balance. Right now, Republicans have the majority in both houses, but if they flip a few seats, either in the House or the Senate, and they get in control, and they get in charge of the committees, because who's ever the majority is in charge of the committees, and they have the ability to either trash a good bill that they don't like, that we would like, or pass through a bill that they didn't like. It gave a list about 8 or 10 bills that I read that ran last time that the Republicans were able to thwart. If we do not get both Walt and Brenda elected, and statewide in the different legislative districts that each have 2 House members and 1 Senate, senator. We also have to get Wendy Rogers elected. She's running for the state senate. They all have Democrat running against them. And it's so very important because those kind of bills that I sent out to you will come to the fore and be passed. A lot of them are red flag type laws and laws on other things that you would not want implemented in the state of Arizona. The point I sent it out for is because we have an action alert group, and as soon as the legislative session starts in January, bills that are already being prepared right now are being looked at, and Jose down there in Phoenix has a team of people that are looking at each one of those bills, and if there's a bill that we absolutely must support or must oppose, that goes, when that bill goes to committee, then we need to act, because all of those Democrats get their text messages and it says, support this bill, whatever that bill is. And because they're getting free Obama phones, that's the cost of their free Obama phone, is when they're told to jump, they jump. And they do whatever their handlers, I will guess, say to do. And so Republicans need to start getting very much active in supporting and opposing those kind of bills. So if you want to get on that list, we have 82, some from the Republican club, some from the Tea Party, that when he sends it out on Sunday night, I send it out to everybody, and it tells what bills are being in committee that week, and you can then comment on those bills. Yes?
I want to recommend to everybody go to truethevote2020.org. That's
Okay,
the organization that is fighting the voter
2020.org.
fraud. truethevote2020.org. They're fighting this mail-in voting, and they're finding irregularities in the voting systems all over the country.
Yeah, and True the Vote, also we have the Arizona Integrity Project, Election Integrity Project, that's based on and kind of under the umbrella of the California Election Integrity Project that made LA County move 1.6 million people off their voter rolls that were dead and moved and all of that. So there's a lot of groups that we need to support, because guess what, gang? It takes money. And we have to give sacrificially. I know Walt needs money, Brenda needs money, everybody needs money. Woody's has a Democrat running against him, and the Democrats, including Mr. George Soros, are dumping tons of money in, tons of out-of-state money coming into Arizona because they want to flip Arizona. And guess what? We're going to do the footwork, and we are going to get out our grassroots with whatever money we have, and we're going to thwart those guys.
Shirley,
Yes?
Can I just say one more thing about my opposition? I failed to mention, I apologize for that. So the lady running against me, her name is Bernadette Neffen. She lives in San Carlos on the reservation down there. She's a tribal member for the San Carlos Apaches. She built a transit system there on the reservation, did a really good job of it. I don't think she'll do a real good job for us as a supervisor. But what I wanted to point out, the fact of this is the San Carlos Tribal Council and the White Mountain Apache Tribal Council both drafted resolutions against me in favor of her. So whether she wants to do something or not, I've worked with the tribes long enough to know she's not going to do it unless they give their approval. And so that for us, for the rest of the county, is going to get tough. It's going to get real tough. Her only complaint that I've heard from her so far, and it's just through the rumor mill, you know how that goes, so it's just that I don't give them enough money down there in San Carlos. So, but that's what I wanted you guys to understand, is that's who I'm campaigning against. It ain't necessarily Bernie. It's the tribal council in San Carlos and the tribal council in White River. So, I need your votes.
Yep. George?
I just want to say that
Anybody in here that has faith in this mail-in ballot system, put $500 in an envelope and mail it to yourself.
See if you get it back. Okay. Eric Mariscal at our county elections department is really on top of stuff. And if you have worked the polls, in which case you might want to work the polls if you have some time, because they need poll workers coming up for November. He's really on top of things, and up here in Gila County, it's pretty safe. Many of us don't put it in the mail. We just go over to the recorder's office there, catty corner from the post office, and drop it in the box. They have a box there now. You can just drive through. We used to go inside and put it in, but because of COVID, you have to drop it outside. But down in Phoenix, this is a huge issue. And so they're looking for, poll watchers from rural Arizona to go down to Phoenix and watch what's going on down there at the polling places and at the drop-off places and stuff like that. So there's a lot that we can do that you can volunteer to do. So anyhow, okay. Next up we have Walt Blackman in disguise here. Darlene Yonker. So, not Blackman, but, So anyhow, here's Darlene because she wants to go to that one. It's okay. Yes.
Hello, everyone. There's a lot. How do I get this down? I'm a short screen.
It doesn't have.
It turns at the bottom there.
Well, I gotta hold this.
Turns at the bottom.
At the bottom,
Right
right
there.
here, right there.
Let me know how.
Okay, I got it.
There we go.
Okay,
Very good.
that's good. All right. You can tell I'm not used to using microphones. Okay, it sure is good to see some of my old friends here that haven't seen you in a long, long time. So I want to tell you that Walt sends his deepest regrets that he is not here tonight, because he reminds me often that these people, we are the ones that gave him his start. We were the first organization that he came to when he decided he wanted to run. He walked in and he said, "My name is Walt Blackman, and I'm going to be running for state representative. And I wonder, can I have 10 or 15 minutes of your time?" And we said, "Yeah, sure." Well, it was more like about 30 minutes, and lots of good questions. And he had not yet solidified all of his things that he believed in or wanted to work in, but he certainly had good values, and we saw that in him. And so we jumped in there and supported him. So I'm really pleased to be able to work for Walt. I'm his his campaign policy advisor and his Gila County coordinator. So if you need any kind of things set up for Walt here in Gila County, I'm the person you want to talk to. I do have some of my cards with me if you don't know how to contact me. And also I have some of Walt's palm cards. If you do not have one, feel free to come and get one or raise your hand. And in fact, I'll let Dean do that if someone would like one. I also have some donation envelopes. As Shirley said, it takes money to run a campaign. So I do apologize that I'm usually able to talk pretty well without reading, but I want to make certain that I've captured Walt's thoughts accurately, so I'm going to be doing a bit of reading. The reason why Walt is not here today is because only yesterday afternoon he learned that his bill, HB 2808, was going to be heard by some very important people down in Phoenix. He needed to be there to talk about it, and he just got out of a meeting about 4 o'clock. He was not able to get back up here in time. So I am going to be talking to you a little bit about some of his things that he wants to work on. Well, first of all, I want to talk about that bill, HB 2808. It's the Earned Release Credit Bill. He dropped that bill this last session, the one that was adjourned, sort of, kind of. And so some people, when they hear this earned release credit, they think that maybe the bad people, the really bad people, are going to be able to get out of jail without serving their time, and that is not the case at all. HB 2808 will only release people, this bill only pertains to offenders who are incarcerated for drug use and possession, but are nonviolent, non-repeaters, and have not been charged with any sexual offenses. By the way, anyone incarcerated for selling drugs will not be eligible for early release under this bill. In an article by Perry Vandell published in the Republic newspaper, Arizona experienced a spike in people going to prison for nonviolent offenses. That total rose 80% between fiscal years 2000 and 2017. More people were sent to prison in 2018 for nonviolent drug offenses than all violent crimes combined. That's a pretty astonishing figure. That total rose 80% between the fiscal years 2000 and 2017. So this bill is expected to generate about $438 million through the early release of these addicted but rehabilitated inmates. And those funds are going to be used for the self-improvement programs that the inmates will have to complete prior to their release. Selected prisoners will be released based on strict criteria. First, before even being eligible for the program, the inmate must have an 8th grade functional literacy level as determined by standardized testing. So that's the first hurdle they have to pass. They cannot be classified as a level 5 offender. They cannot be a foreign national and cannot have less than 6 months incarceration left on their commitment to the department. I thought that was pretty cute, called a commitment to the department. I don't think they really want to be committed to it, but so these funds are going to be used for those self-improvement programs that the inmates will have to complete. So backtracking here, sorry. And most importantly, these programs are going to be far-reaching, including not only drug intervention, but they will be employment programs, family reintegration programs, employment programs, and other programs that will help the inmate become a contributing member to society upon their release. Some of these programs are already existing within the CDC programs, but many of them are going to have to be put into place. This bill passed out of the House earlier this year only to sit on the Judiciary's desk because of the March coronavirus shutdown. By the way, in May, Walt voted, along with many of his House of Representatives colleagues, to not adjourn and leave all of that hard work unfinished. He believed they needed to be there and working. Walt values quality education for our children. Walt will tell you that not every problem in education is resolved by throwing more money at it. He is fond of asking people when they assert, we don't fund education enough. He asks the question, how much is enough? He has yet to get an answer. He says that the education budget for the state of Arizona is $6.2 billion, which is about 60% of the entire Arizona budget. So we fund about 60% of our budget goes to schools. And the teachers recently received a $168 million increase, but still schools are not thriving and we're losing teachers. So the question is why? Walt believes school districts must provide powerful incentives to retain teachers and encourage them to teach to excellence. Work environments, reasonable control over how they run their classrooms and teach, recognition for great performance, and knowing that they're appreciated along with a living wage goes a long ways to keeping our good teachers. Also, Walt believes that money should follow the backpack. In other words, he supports school choice, even if it is a charter school, a private school, or a religious school. There was a letter in the Roundup today where the writer made these comments. Taxpayer money for education is diverted from public schools and sent to private schools. I don't believe my tax dollars should go to private schools. What the writer fails to understand is that the parent who pays taxes for education but chooses to send their child to a private school finds that their taxpayer dollars stay with the public school and they have to pay the tuition for the private school. This makes it very difficult for many parents to be able to exercise school choice, to choose the school that's best for their child, because they can't afford both the taxes and the tuition. So how does that ensure that our children are getting the best education that their parents are looking for them? Also, Walt wants you to know that he is vigorously opposed to the comprehensive sex education bills that have been presented and people are wanting to pass. Not he and not his colleagues. He will stand very firm against any of that coming into our classrooms. Walt also stands strongly against abortion, and he's planning on working on strengthening the already existing anti-abortion laws that are on the books in the state of Arizona. He also believes that we need to continue to fund our police. His belief is that in any profession, you've got mostly good and a couple of bad apples. That's the same in teachers, it's the same in firefighters, it's the same in CEOs, and it's the same in our police departments. So his belief is that we need to recognize that we need to train well, we need to support, and then we need to hold people accountable. And whenever someone doesn't do their job correctly, then they need to be removed from the force. But he does not believe in defunding our police. He also is very, very much against the violence that's going on in the country today. He stands very firmly against that. He too, like Woody, believes that these people have taken an oath, the governors, the mayors, these people have taken an oath to protect and serve and the average citizen, and they're not doing that when they allow violence in the name of peaceful protesting to take place in our streets. So he will do everything that he can to make certain that doesn't happen in Arizona. Walt remains committed to working to make our forests healthy and safe. He believes in clearing the forest of the overgrowth caused by decades of mismanagement. He also will work to utilize the removed biomass to generate electricity. He knows that that is not the cheapest electricity around, but it accomplishes so much by taking all of that mass out of our forest that he believes that it may be worth the little bit of extra cost that it would be for that electricity. Just think of the costs of fighting these mega fires that we have now in the Southwest. It costs billions of dollars, and if we can clear our forests and put that biomass back into creating electricity, I, for one, would be willing to pay a few extra cents per kilowatt hour, whatever it is. Lastly, Walt wanted me to tell everyone that he will be working to ensure that the state of Arizona is quickly and completely opened up. Walt says all businesses are essential, even if only to the proprietor who depends upon that livelihood for their life. And all businesses should be allowed to reopen. He said that we must manage the disease, but shutting down our economy is not the way to do it. So thank you for letting me talk with you. If you have some general questions, I can answer those. Some very specific ones, probably not. I do have some of Walt's yard signs with me. If you would like them, please see me afterwards. And if you need a card or a donation envelope, I will have those with me as well. Are there any general questions?
Jim has a question. What a surprise.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I respect his military service that he's given. And the fact, I know him as a legislator and that he was awarded the Freshman Legislator of the Year. And then most importantly, I know him as a person and a friend. And you can't find people of higher character than Walt Blackman. So I just encourage everybody to get people out and vote for Walt.
Okay, here we go.
I just wanted to make a comment. We're talking about these cities and things. I'm from LA. Originally, I was born and raised there, moved here 15 years ago. And it's pretty hard when you got a governor that is related to the Speaker of the House and is getting paid off big time like the rest of them and doesn't give a rat's, pardon me, ass about anything that's going on in California. And these other governors and mayors are the same way. You know, they're getting paid off by Soros, and some of them, I wish Pelosi would put some of her money into this, but it's in the offshore accounts like the rest of them. Thank you.
And Walt, the last thing is I want to say is be sure that you vote for Brenda Barton and Walt Blackman. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Brenda Barton.
Yes, indeed. Good to be here. So happy to see you all today. I appreciate all the good comments that you had, and I also have the contribution envelopes as well, and I did already hand out my cards to everybody, so thank you for that. You know, rural Arizona and northern Arizona really needs experienced, trustworthy representation. It's really important, and I believe that Walt Blackman and myself fit that bill. As you know, I was in the legislature from 2011 until 2018, and term limits kicked in. I can rerun after 2 years of a break. So here I am. It's been 2 years. So I would take office in 2021. You know, sometimes it's hard to believe it's 2021. It's like, oh my, when did I graduate from high school, you know? It's, it's going fast. It's just really going fast. It's quite amazing. And just so you know that Walt Blackman and I are on the same page on almost all of these things. I believe in life from birth to natural death. And I also believe in upholding the Second Amendment. I'm a proud gun owner. I'm a life member of the NRA and the Gun Owners of America, as well as the Arizona Citizens Defense League. I'm life members. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I believe in all the amendments, and I believe in all of the Constitution. You know, they all work together, and they're all there for a reason. And remember that the 10 amendments came later, after they had all the Constitution ready to be approved. But there were some people that held out and said, oh no, you need to add a little thing here and there. So they did actually have the 10 amendments. That's why they're the amendments. They were amended to the original Constitution, and I'm so glad that somebody stood their ground. And which is something I want to make sure you understand about standing your ground in Arizona. We do have a law. It's called Stand Your Ground. It's the Castle Doctrine. It's very important in Arizona. And it's important in every state, but Arizona is the only one that we can control. So when you think about that legislation and the law that's in place, you need to think about what happened in Missouri just a few months ago. Some of you will remember it was on the news a couple of times, and they played it over and over and over again. A couple standing there with a rifle and a handgun, protecting themselves and their property against the peaceful protesters that had just knocked down a fence, a gate, and they were marauding through private property, threatening them, saying they're going to burn down their house and they're going to kill their dog, and you know how that goes. And they were protecting their property and themselves. But what happened a few days later is I just can't understand how this happens, except it was a Soros county attorney. And that is, warrants were issued for their arrest. warrants were issued for searching of their property and confiscation of their weapons. I'm telling you, that's outrageous. I don't ever want to see that in Arizona, ever. Never, ever, never. If you have to defend yourself and your property, and the police can't come, or they're not there, you don't have a cell phone, you can't call anybody, and remember, you know what? Things happen in just a few minutes. The police arrive in time to fill out the report, okay? So we need to make sure that we understand that in Arizona, we do have a right of self-defense. That doesn't mean we kill people. There's a big difference in running around shooting people. We've seen that happen in these peaceful protests. People are just getting shot because they happen to show up someplace, or they had a flag on their t-shirt. You know, these things are outrageous. And let's remember that elections have consequences. Always, elections have consequences. It depends on who you put in office to represent you and to pass laws to hold the line. In Virginia, their legislature became all Democrat. And they already had a Democrat governor. So what the legislature did is they immediately churned out all the bills against every kind of Second Amendment, against anybody holding a weapon, having a weapon, and they were trying to wipe out anybody's ability to own weapons in Virginia. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. But you know what the Citizens Defense League of Virginia did? They showed up, okay? If you want something to happen, you have to show up. Just like the voters, we have to show up. So they showed up at the Capitol, and they got them to turn some of those laws back. Some of those things just never seem to come up and get sent to the governor's office. Because some of those laws was actually infanticide of those precious babies. They just happened to be born, and then the doctor and the mother would decide whether they were going to allow the baby to live at that point. That's just really revolting to me, okay? It's murder. It is murder, infanticide. So there's some things that we need to do to maintain ourselves in Arizona, and that is to elect every Republican on your ballot. From President Trump all the way to the bottom of the ballot. If it's a dog catcher, then you vote for that Republican dog catcher. Whoever it is, every Republican on the ballot. It doesn't matter what the name is. It doesn't matter who it is. It has to be the Republican. We have to show our communities and our counties and our state that the Republicans will stand strong against tyranny. Because this is where we are. This is where we are. Tyranny is coming our way. We need to be prepared. We need to look after ourselves and our families and our communities. We need to make sure it doesn't get a foothold. We have to do that. One of the specific areas that is important to us is the Corporation Commission. There are 3 Republicans on the ballot for the Corporation Commission. Very important. Vote for all 3 Republicans. There are also 3 Democrats who have said that the new Green Deal will be implemented in Arizona if they are elected. That's a no-go, folks. We can't do that. Now, we don't have oil wells in Arizona, but that's not the point. That's not the point. It's not economically viable in our state. So we need to make sure to vote for all 3 Republicans on the ballot for the Corporation Commission. So important, so important. And I don't know if there's another issue that you would like to question me about, or we'd like to discuss or something. I can share some of the things that I've done in the legislature before. And as I mentioned earlier, I did work with some people on the PSPRS situation. And a few years ago, if you recall, the legislature sent a ballot measure for you all to vote on, and you passed it for the PSPRS improvement. which is why there's only a tier 3 now. And that was part of that legislation that we put together and sent to the ballot for you guys to pass. And you passed it. It was urgently needed. And I'm really glad and thankful that it passed. So that tier 3 is for any and all new hires and new employees. It's a little different program. But, and I will work with the state treasurer, and Walt and I can go over there and talk about these things and see if we can't get the PSPRS under the state treasurer, where you have a much better opportunity to keep a solid, highly qualified and a great return on the monies that all the employees are putting into this, so that it will be self-sustaining. Very important. So if you maybe have some questions or something you're interested in, something maybe you'd like me to do when I get there.
Here's Lori.
Yes, Lori. Good to see you, Lori.
Good to see you. I just want to know, once you're elected, what committee do you want to be on, or will you?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, the committees that I was on before. I was the chairman of the Agriculture, Water, and Land Committee. It's very important for rural Arizona, as well as energy, natural resources, and rural affairs. And I was also the chairman of the Rural Caucus. Again, something very important because it was a membership of all the rural legislators throughout the state. And we would come together and discuss different healthcare programs that were affecting rural Arizona. We talked about a lot of educational programs. Those are some of the same areas that I'm interested in, and I'm also interested in some of the judiciary items and prison reform. I had talked to Walt months ago about some of the things that we had been working on until session ended and that sort of thing. But in New Jersey had a very interesting program under a Republican governor, and they set aside one of the prisons in the state of New Jersey as a drug rehabilitation facility. It was divided into two sections. One was the penal side. Okay, those were the incarcerated folks that were doing time. They had been convicted, but it was a drug-related conviction, and they were doing their time there, and they were going through education. They had to go to school. If they didn't have a high school diploma, they had to get a diploma, and also was allowed for them to have college classes as well, so that when they come out of there, they can become a good citizen. They have a better self-image. They don't have to hang around with all those good old boys that they used to hang around with that got them into trouble. And the other section was actually people could go there and self-admit themselves if they know they have a problem with drugs, and they can agree and sign a contract to stay there for so long a period of time, which was determined based on the situation and their condition. So it worked for both sides. So just because you haven't been convicted doesn't mean you don't need help. You do need help. And you need to find out what the drug problem is in your life. I'm not going to get into all that stuff necessarily, but I think it's something that we need to consider. We have state prisons, and we did do some consolidation of the juvenile facilities. When I was there, we consolidated the juvenile facilities, which was a big money saver, and we didn't have as many juveniles in the state facilities at the time. Many of them were staying in the county facilities. So I think there's some things that we can look at. I think it's a good, New Jersey's program is something, maybe everything doesn't fit for Arizona, but we can glean out the things that will be good for us. And we can structure it so it's an Arizona program. I think that it's worth the time and effort to do that. So I'm looking maybe to be on some of the committees that would allow me to do the research on that sort of thing as well.
Other questions? Brenda also has yard signs. They just happen to be in the back of my car right now. And she has donation envelopes also, because we are up against some really big outside state money that are going to absolutely slam the airwaves. We already have Coral Evans, the mayor of Flagstaff, and Art Babbitt that are running, who's a county supervisor up in Flag, independent, although he is a Bernie Sanders guy. Yeah. Okay. Don.
I wanted to inform everybody has heard of YouTube. The young people spend a lot of time on YouTube. The Biden machine, the Democrat machine, has taken over the advertising on YouTube. Every YouTube video you go to has an advertisement at the beginning of it for Biden or for some other communist masquerading as a Democrat.
Yeah, they've got a lot of money, and that's the thing. What we have is patriotism. We want to save our state. We want to save our country. And so we need to share this stuff with our friends and our families, encourage them to vote Republican straight down the ballot. Every Republican receive a vote. It's so important. And we can win against their money. Their money can't buy goodwill, okay?
Here's Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, ma'am. The question I had was, I look around this room, and including myself, I'm retired from California, and what we need to do, what the Republican Party needs to do, we need to reach out to these young kids.
Yes.
They are the ones that are going to be the future of this country, and if they buy this, the socialism and Marxism ideology, we're in trouble. We need to get some kind of a game plan together to get the idea across that these ideologies don't work, and that our country is the greatest country in the world and the freest country in the world. We need to get them to come into the conservative fold.
Absolutely.
What can we do to get that to happen?
I can tell you is that our education system has created the situation. So to uncreate it, you have to go back to where the source was. So it was in our education system. Even ASU has a bona fide Marxist instructor. No, I'm sorry, I don't think that's right. Well, one admitted, straightforward, exactly. But I don't think that's appropriate. So I think if we can get the majority and keep it in the legislature, we need to look at designing some things for our universities to actually become more American and the American ideals, and teaching those things to our students that America is absolutely a unique country. No other country was founded the way America was founded. It's a fabulous country, and it has a rich and honorable history.
But we need to start that at grade school. When I was in first grade, we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every day. I understood that flag.
Exactly. And not only that, but we learned all the patriotic songs.
Yep.
And we actually learned all the songs of all the military. I still remember the Marine Corps hymn. I don't know, it's like, what? I still remember that. So I don't know why, but from the beginning. Because when you teach the children when they're small, those are really the things that stay with them throughout. If you get the foundation right, everything else will work as well. So I've talked to some people, voters, and they think that we should not allow state tuition money for any classes that are, quote, studies classes. So that's an interesting thing. That's your black studies, women's studies, white studies, their studies programs. And a lot of the English programs are actually incredibly indoctrinating as well because of the type of requirements in the literature that they require them to read. They're not reading American writers. They're not reading the good things that the American writers have put together in the books that are out there. And so I think that we're just going to have to get kind of radical. I think it's probably about time. You know, let's wake up. You know, we're that silent generation. Let's knock it off. Let's knock it off. Let's wake up. Let's stand up, and let's be noisy and peaceful. But let's get it done. When your legislative people come together and we're trying to make these things happen, we're going to need you to show up. Maybe you have to show up and take a drive down to the Capitol, show up at one of these committee hearings, and get on the list and voice your opinion in support of fixing our schools and allowing parents the choice that's best for their children. Whatever choice is best for your children is where your children should go. And I don't think the government should get in the way.
Amen.
That's it. The government should not get in your way. And government schools, I'm sorry, I'm not happy about government schools. I don't like that particularly. Okay, Johnny here.
Does the Arizona Department of Education have any sort of mandate for teaching the Constitution in high school or junior high school?
We did pass some legislation when I was there, and in order for students to graduate from high school, they have to pass the U.S. naturalization test, so they at least have an idea of what it means to be a citizen. So that's a requirement to get your diploma. So that was done when I was still in office, and I voted to support that completely. But I think there's some more things that we need to do and that we should do. And yeah, the Department of Education needs to get some information from the legislature on their priorities.
Just have a comment, and that is that I served on the school board in California for a number of years, and if you want your schools to change, every one of you needs to be down at the school board meetings.
Amen.
Every time.
That's right.
Every time. Because if you don't know what they're passing every month or twice a month whenever they meet, then you're going to get hit with something that you don't like. And that's how this has happened. Because as Brenda said, we are the silent people. We're the nice. We want to play nice with everybody. Well, darn it, I'm tired of playing nice. I'm tired of giving in to all of those people that are out there screaming, looting, burning, and tearing down the America that I grew up in. And I'm tired of it. I want people that are up there that's going to fight for me. I want people that know what combat's like, whether it's actually been in Iraq and Afghanistan, or someone like Brenda that's been down in the trenches and knows what it's all about. I want my America back, and I want it back now. And for us to do that, we've got to start at kindergarten.
Yes, ma'am.
At kindergarten.
Absolutely.
And so your school system is the most important thing that you can do to change what's going on in America right now, today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The school board. In Arizona, the school board has the authority of curriculum. Does not come from the state legislature. It comes from your local control. So if local control is so good and so beneficial, why are our schools all messed up? And the books are decided by your school board and the publishers that come in and try to sell their product. And so you need to make sure, I mean, look, I think there's some people in here right now that will be on the next school board. The next time there's a vacancy, I think that there are some people in here right now that will decide that, you know what, I think I need to be on that school board so I know what's going on and I can help influence and help make decisions for my community. Yes, ma'am.
Just so that everybody is clear, when they talk about that the legislatures do not fund our schools adequately, they can pass all the laws that they want to give all the money that they can to the schools, but it is the school board that decides who gets that money.
Absolutely
So our
right.
recent increase that Payson Unified Schools got, the first thing they did with it was they gave their administrators a huge raise. Not the teachers, the administrators. So that's why you need to be down there at that school board meeting every time. Telling them you don't want that to happen. You want the teachers to get the money. That's what the propositions were for. Do the teachers get it? No, because the people down there at the Capitol building can't tell that school board how they're going to spend their money.
That's right.
That's a local decision.
Exactly. That's the local control decision. So, you know, and look at these superintendents, they're making well over $100,000. Some of them are making well over $200,000. So you're not getting money to the teacher or to the classroom.
Brenda, we have a question over here too. Okay.
Hello. Hi, Brenda. With the school boards, why, they have so much control, they control the money. Why can we not have our governments, our local governments, our state governments, pass laws so that they have a specific curriculum that they have to follow, that the money has to go so much to, you know, the teachers, so much to the buildings, so much to supplies?
That's exactly what the school board decides. That's why you have to show up at the meetings, especially the work sessions, when they're deciding these budget items. How much money for the teachers pay? How much money for the superintendent, the bus drivers, the groundskeepers, all of those positions within that district comes from the school board. They have a lot of power. People have no idea. And I'm telling you, well, you can't, see, people always want local power. So, but if you don't apply yourself to be participant of that local power, somebody will do it for you. If you don't show up, you have to show up. That's what, we said this before. You have to show up to vote. You have to show up at the school board. You have to show up at the county meetings, at the city council, the town councils. Showing up as voters is important. When people know that you're going to show up, their attitude changes, and their decisions change. Believe me, when we've had committee hearings, I had a bill in my agriculture committee, and it was related to water. I had probably 400 people show up at my committee hearing. Farmers and ranchers. I was so happy to see them. They showed up and they defended themselves and they defended their position, and the bill died. And that was a good thing. That was a good thing. But if it had been done in silence and nobody showed up, you know what? Other people just didn't feel the heat on their feet down there when the fire was going. And these things are real. These things are very, very real. And I've even killed a water bill that was one of my own party people put together, but it was bad for rural Arizona. It was bad for rural Arizona, and I, as a chairman, see, the majority, I was the chairman of that committee. It didn't leave my committee, that bill. That bill stayed in my committee. Because I had the authority.
That's why we need to be the majority.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Because if we lose the majority, it'll be a Democrat in that position, and you and your ideas will be irrelevant. Because they'll have their mission of things that they have to do. They'll have a checklist. Believe me, they'll have a checklist. So, any other questions, comments? Thank you all. I appreciate
Jim
you.
has-
Oh, yes, Jared.
I'll just
Oh, and
say that, you know, about your passion and your values and your heart and everything, it's in the right place, and I'll guarantee your person running against you is not anywhere near grounded where you are, and And just another, we've heard a lot about the Constitution, and the Constitution is divine providence as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
And it came out of that book up there on the table.
It sure did.
And,
Yes, it did.
and our Constitution is, dependent on that book being a part of,
our life and society.
every one of us in our nation being part of our hearts and our own, personal constitutions.
Right. Absolutely correct. Absolutely
Okay.
correct.
And I want to recognize John and Melody here. They drove all the way down from Heber. So, Mel, you had a question? No. Oh, she was just saying hi to me. Well, anyhow, so.
Absolutely.
Irv has a question.
I've heard us talk,
It's on. It's on.
It's just on.
I've heard us talk about everything today except the one main important thing that we got to get across. And that is Jesus Christ. We haven't said one word about teaching our children to say God when they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And I've listened to our young people today when they're saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and they are dropping under God out of it.
Right.
And it is time we get on board
We gotta fix
and
that.
make sure
Right.
that it's said the right way.
Right, absolutely correct. Because Constitution, our founders said, was for a moral and righteous people. So it doesn't work if you're not moral and righteous, because then you get people burning up buildings and they get destructing everything in their town and their city and rioting. Moral and righteous people. Very important, The founders knew what they were doing. They studied everything of history. They spoke Greek, Latin, French, absolutely French, because we had a little tie going on there with the French back and forth. Not to mention the King's English at the time, because they were British citizens. Remember, they were British citizens. And the British citizens rose up against the king. That's how that happened. Because they knew about history, and they knew about their Bible, and they knew their God. And divine providence created America through the men that founded it. So perfect. Thank you all. I appreciate you every bit.
Okay, so one other bit of news. Extremely important. There's, I believe, 2 candidates, women, that President Trump is considering for the Supreme Court. We need to really pray about that. And one of the people who went to an appellate court, I think she's from Indiana? I don't know. I can't remember everything I hear, just so you know. Midwestern state. Was criticized when she was running for a seat on the appellate court because she wore her Christianity on her sleeve. She was a devout Christian, everybody knew it. And they were concerned that she would not be able to separate her Christianity from the Constitution. Well, heck, there's nothing to separate. It's all in the same one, So, but anyhow, we have to really pray about that, because the Democrats, in case you haven't been listening to the news, are making all kinds of threats of packing the court, rioting, all kinds of things. So it's very important that we elect Donald Trump so he can make America great again. All right, so